Let's just give love one more chance. Or maybe, as many as it wants. All right. Let's start the archive. And oh, it is so good to see you here. It is June 12th, 2012. Wait a minute. 6, 12, 12, 12. If I know anything from Facebook, I know that there's something numerically significant about that. So, I don't know actually. But it seems like there's a lot of significant numbers. We'll say this is significant because we're here together. Even if it's archive, this togetherness is about an intention and a vibration. It's not about an exact time or physical space. Clearly, the internet breaks us out of space. Archiving and digital copies breaks us out of the limitations of time or the mental constructs of time. So, let's enjoy that freedom and then remind ourselves that it is always the now. So just for a few seconds, let's come back to the now. Sink in. Be grateful for whatever thoughts brought you to this now, to this experience, and then let them dissolve off you and just be here now. Become aware of your body. Feel your feet on the floor. Hear the sound of my voice. And simply allow yourself to be a receiver of words, of vibrations, of sensations. Just trust that the deeper you will be able to get in alignment with that, to radiate with that, to awaken itself to this vibration without effort on your part. Simply allow, receive, and be in this now. Thank you, universe, for all of our blessings. Help us to be aware of all the magic in our lives. Fill us with joy and love so that we can spread love and joy in the world. Amen. Oh boy, welcome! I'm glad you're here. Today I wanted to talk about taking the high road and how taking the high road is its own reward. That seems like a simple thing, but in today's world it can be almost revolutionary. This came up because this week a friend of mine came over to me and he said, hey, can I talk to you? I just kind of had a situation happen. And what had happened was, he lives across the street from a parking lot where a group of people, or a company that does these bike tours around town, does their loading and unloading. And the reason why people take a bike tour, it's this big bike that's all connected, and so you can drink while you're doing it. So people do they just get wasted. And, as sometimes, alcohol does to people, they get loud and unruly and obnoxious. And so my friend, B, he went and when he saw the owner of the, doing setting up for their next group, went over and said, hey, hi, I'm B, I live right here, and I was wondering if you could maybe, steer people to being a little bit more quiet. It is kind of a nuisance when we have to listen to that all the time, and maybe even consider loading someplace that's a little farther from residential areas. And the person's like, okay. And then 3 hours later, a bike tour was done for their drink-a-thon, and as they were unloading, my friend was outside watering his plants. And apparently the owner had said something like, hey, keep it down, that guy over there gets upset or something. And so these drunk people started yelling at him. That's a guy party pooper! And he's like, me? What? So he walked over to talk to the owner and was like, see, this is kind of what I was talking about. This is a little bit, over the... And this now group of 12 people, drunk, starts yelling, you party pooper, you will give it back! And my friend is like, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get a solution here, and they start screaming at him. Somebody gets up in his face, and of course he's like, you know, adrenaline, and just like trying to be as calm as possible, and just took in all of this aggression, trying to do his best to just like take the high road. And basically, you know, the owner was like, "Look, what am I supposed to do? These are my patrons. You know, I can't control them." And it was very unsatisfying in that interaction. And then so that he could get it on the record, he ended up calling the police, and the police were like, "What do you expect? You live so close to, you know, all these bars." And he's like, "Well, it wasn't like this when I moved in. I'd like to try to make, you know, then the cars drive by and the taxis, now the same people drive by and they yell at him as they're driving by." And he's like, "Officer." So all of this happened, and he came to me and he's like, "You know, I feel like I did everything right, and I just got shit on. You know, I just like, they won. You know, I just like, I feel terrible. I'm all like, ugh, you know." And I was like, "You know what? Let me see if I can try to reframe this, because that sounds horrific. The only thing that would be worse is if they actually physically assaulted you. But basically, you took on this massive negative energy, negative, and you took the highest road possible and just said, I'm going to not meet your anger with anger. I'm not going to meet your fist with a wall. I'm just going to try to absorb and deflect as best I can and try to just do what I know to be right." And it can be easy to think that if you looked at that chapter from the time that he talked to the owner to the time that they drove by in a cab and yelled at him, that the high road sucks. And I said, well, let's think about it differently. What if you think of it, the game is differently. The game is not, can I get people to stop acting like assholes? The game isn't, can I try to make the world fair? The game isn't, can I try to stop any bad people in the world? The game is that all of those bad people is actually the terrain, the board. That is the field that we're playing on. And all of these assholes are, you know, these are the draw a card. Oh, I got to deal with this now. How am I going to deal with it? And so the way I see this, as you tell me the story, is, dude, you just hit it out of the park. You just got slammed with the most gnarliest of challenges, and the universe testing you, and you passed with flying colors. Now you feel aggressive, you feel like terrible right now, and because of course you've taken on all this energy, and everyone I know, outside of maybe my grandpa and the Dalai Lama, when you receive that energy, it takes a little bit of time to kind of get it out of you. It's a pretty enlightened master that can take that kind of aggression and just go, whew. So that's all normal. That's the bruises and the bumps of the game, but you won. The problem is, if you just measure it in that group, those people are probably like, huh, that chump, we showed him, we win. Meanwhile, they have their lives and their unexamined lives to live in and to be with, and where the peace of taking the high road is not a part of their lives. And so when you can reframe the situation so that they're playing this game, if I win this game, I'm still an asshole. If I win this game, I still have a garage full of motor vehicles and jet skis and stuff, while I know there are people that I know and love that are suffering. I still die with toys, but without knowledge that I was a good person. Our culture plays that game. Our media plays that game. Our economic system is all about that game. And so we have to, however, whether it's joining together once a week here, or with friends, or with books, or with whatever it is, to be like, wait a minute, I don't play that game. Or I don't want to. Or I don't want to play it with the same fervor that would make me sacrifice the game that I'm really playing, which is, how can I be my best self? How can I be most in alignment with my highest, loving, divine vibration? And Now, that doesn't mean you always do it. It means you're always trying. You're always trying. So when you have a situation like this, even if you would have, yelled back or said, knock it out, I mean, whatever, that's still, that's still pretty good. You do the best you can. And it's playing the game that actually matters. Now, we're told as a kid, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's how you play the game. That was not my experience growing up. I don't remember ever, hanging out with the rest of the kids that were, at the end of a kickball game and going, oh man, they really killed us. But we really had a lot of camaraderie out there, guys. Yay! Go Team Spirit! Or maybe you did, in which case I want to play with you more. But we really don't value that. In fact, it's so deep. Culturally, I believe that we say it's not a bad thing to cheat and steal. It's a bad thing to get caught. I'm like, what? That's my perception. Is that really what? And I saw this thing on CNN. It was saying that 30% of high school students have stolen from a store, and 64% have cheated on a test. And that's when you ask them. 64% said they cheated on a test. And why? Because it does matter if you win or lose. It doesn't matter how you play the game in the eyes of our culture. That's what we teach. Look at who our leaders are. Look at how, politicians say, no, never did that. Oh, you actually have footage of me doing it? Yeah, okay, I did it. And up until that time, we consider them awesome. Up until someone is caught cheating on their wife, we kind of say, whatever, you're good. And we certainly value someone who creatively bends the rules and ends up being a financial success. We think that's awesome. We don't shun somebody because they, sent jobs overseas and destroyed our economy while they made themselves rich. We just say, it's clever, you're rich. Can I borrow some money for some tea? Anyway, listen to this quote I just saw. They were interviewing, and this kid said, this is a high school student, what's important is getting ahead. The better grades you have, the better school you get into, the better you're going to do in life. And if you learn to cut corners to do that, you're going to be saving yourself time and energy. In the real world, that's what's going to be going on. The better you do, that's what shows. It's not how moral you were in getting there. And you know what? Of course he thinks that. That is our cultural belief. But what I'm suggesting is that when you play the game, that cultural game, the opportunity to win is almost non-existent. It's even when you have a victory, you have to keep. And because we know the world is filled with assholes and cheaters and all these things, it is a constant battle to try to feel some feeling of victory. And most of the time, it's not. It's a feeling of like, But if you instead switch the game so that it's not about being a success by those terms in this world, but instead say, the world is the playing field, the game is how can I be my best self within it, then you can win in every single moment. Every decision you make, every day, you can be in a place of, I'm doing it, I'm doing the best I can. Winner. Win, win, win. And of course, you're going to have people who are going to yell at you and drunkenly and make you think, you should play our game because you suck at it. Face. But if you can remember, wait a minute, that game sucks. Even when you win that game, it sucks. Even when you win that game, you're teaching your kids to be a jerk. I remember seeing a father dragging his kid across the street, kind of like lecturing him for something he'd done. And all I heard was him say, no, listen, you screw them before they screw you. I was like, oh. But how many of us are taught that in some way or another? Games like Survivor, celebrities like Trump, our culture is all about that idea of like, look, if you win, if you get insider information, just don't get caught. If you want to go over the speed limit, fine, just don't get caught. If you want to be creative with your taxes, just don't get caught. And so we have that whole system is based on you have no receiving of that much higher joy that is related to the true purpose of your life. If you think that the meaning of your life is what you can acquire, in that very simple, narrow frame, you are doomed to be unhappy. If you can think that, the game is actually about my spiritual, personal evolution, you may do good in that realm, but you can win and be happy no matter what. And as I personally have tried to shift into that realm, I realized that how simple, tiny things can light up my world. It can make me feel so good about myself and that, I'm a winner. Not because I did anything grand or achieved anything or accomplished anything, but simply because I went, in that moment right there, I made a choice that was the high road. I was at the grocery store this week, and a cute little old lady was in front of me in line, and she got through line, and as I was being rung up, she's like, "Oh, drat! I forgot to get a paper." And so, and the cashier was like, "Okay, well, let me just finish him up," and I was like, "Well, I'll take a paper too." And I grab it, and she's like, "Well, that's my paper." I'm like, I know, I'm gonna get you this paper. And so that she, scans it, and I give it back, and the woman was like, "Well, no, I insist, and I'm like, "Oh, please allow me the pleasure of doing something kind for a stranger." And this woman went like, click, like it was this revolutionary thing that she'd heard, and suddenly she goes, "I had such a wonderful time in church today, and now, thank you, young man." It's like, in her mind, at church, yes, that's where you play, that's how it's important how you play the game. When you're in church, you live in the realm of love and forgiveness and community, but once you leave church, you got to get back into your ninja skills, because it's a harsh world out there. It's like, But then once we had that connection, I was like, yay! I just spent $1.50, and it was as wonderful feeling as if I just earned, $1,000. And then, let's see. A friend of mine, another friend, we're talking about at Burning Man, how we get to practice this stuff, and you get to be around people where you are actually valuing one another about how you play the game. And that how hard it can be when you then leave there, go back to your traditional status quo job, and know that if you stick with all of the things and the principles that you lived with in that community, you're at a disadvantage. And really the only way to not feel like you're being taken advantage of is to remind yourself constantly that you're playing two games. One is that one of success according to status, according to financial or other acquiring. And you've got the other game, which is be good. Do right by people. Do better. And I am starting to believe that if you can really get into the game and do your best to be good, to do right by people, you may not have enough money to buy an island and kick out all the inhabitants on it, but you'll have enough. Because you'll be in that state of people around you, the world around you, everything is like you are always trying to make things better, and so people around you are going to try to make your life better. That is not guaranteed, because otherwise it wouldn't be an act of good of your higher self. It would be a negotiation, a contract. You're trying to earn it. But I just believe that's how it works. And another cool opportunity to do the right thing. I saw online there was I like to cruise the free section of Craigslist, and there was someone was giving away a bunch of tent flies, like tent covers, for rain flies, that they had from a Susan B. Komen 3-day walk. So there were these bright pink tent flies, and so I'm like, please, and it's like, oh, you know what, someone's already say they're going to get them, but if they flake, you can have them. And I was like, okay, what is the high road way to basically say, please give them to me, not this other person? And so I was like, you know what? At first I said, okay, and I didn't want to offend them or whatever because it was free, right? So I'm like, well, first I wrote an email and said, look, if you're open to a counter offer, I would happily pay you, $20, and then I was like, wait a minute. These were from a charity event, right? So I said, okay, if you've not promised this person, I would love to pledge $100 towards your walk team, your 3-day walk team, or a charity of your choice, if you would be able to hold on to those for me so I can give them to my campmates. And then I got a call from her saying, come get them. And then she said, don't worry about the donating it. But of course, at that point I was like, you know what, I feel like this is the universe making things all work out. I've been thinking a lot about tithing lately, and then all of a sudden this opportunity, like, oh, here's an opportunity to take a high road and a opportunity to tithe. Now, I don't think it counts as tithing because I've told you about it, but that's all right. So the way I look at all of this is kind of like when I remember being a kid once. We're at my grandparents' cabin where they had this old pool table, and it was kind of run. The bumpers weren't that good, and there were chips and everything. And so the kids would go upstairs, and we didn't know how to play pool, so we would make up our own games. Like how many walls can you make a ball hit? How dun 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 dun. Yay! That was 4. Dun dun dun. Oh, that was 3. That kind of game. I remember playing that for hours and having so much fun. And then a parent coming in and being like, "What are you doing? No. This is how you play. This is how you play pool." And so here we were playing a game where everybody wins every time. We're just having fun. And we were told that that was the wrong way to play. The right way to play is that one person has to beat another person. And here are the rules. I was like, wow. How much of what our lives could be like would be like throwing pool balls around and giggling and laughing? How much of things that potentially are joyful things do we not give our energy to, do we not even pay attention to, because we have been trained in the one game is that our culture matters. These kids believe, look, you gotta do what you can to get ahead, because that's the game. How different would it be if we were all reminded that the winners are the ones who get the best sleep, maybe, happiest, most content, most artistically fulfilled, least shy, least anxious. These are the things that we could start to value in the game that you play with yourself. So let's all just kind of give a couple or bump up a few notches in our actual belief that it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's how you play the game. So let's play the Hugnation game. And wherever you are right now, grab yourselves by the shoulders. And know that everybody in your world, even those that are caught up deeply in the acquisition game, are just playing a game, and deep down they have that same dormant game that we have too, of being their best selves. They just don't even really know that it's there. They might not even be aware of how much deeper joy and contentment it can bring. Heck, we know about it and it's still hard to remember all the time. So let's forgive them, let's forgive ourselves. Let's acknowledge that there is so much joy and appreciation and gratitude that can be found everywhere in how we play the game. And that when we can shift that and recognize that everyone around us, doesn't matter what they're doing, we don't have to get too caught up in what they're doing. What we have to do is be our best selves and celebrate the opportunity we have, the free choice, the free will we have. Not so that it can get us ahead of anyone else, so that it can get us to be our highest self, Thank you for following that as best you can. It inspires others. So let's take a deep breath and be connected to everyone, wherever they are, whatever game they're playing, and just know that in this place, in this time, we honor everyone as connected in their perfect place. Take a deep breath in through the nose. 2 more. On behalf of Grandpa Caleb and all players of the love game, happy Hug Nation. I love you. Namaste.